Hello and welcome to a new story here on my channel. I hope you like my story Marvel What Makes an Hero. This is a revised version of my story because the last two versions didn't fit my taste. I hope you still have fun with my story, and then I don't want to beat around the bush unnecessarily anymore and start right with the story.
It's a dark evening. The stars glitter in the sky like tiny diamonds as Tony Stark sits in his villa, waiting for a very special guest. Were it not for her, the past few months might have been far darker. Yet the occasion is no simple matter, nothing he could address easily. Tony Stark, now the sole heir to Stark Industries, is so lost in thought that he almost doesn't notice a pitch-black limousine gliding into his driveway and an absolutely stunning woman stepping out. She wears a deep-necked, dark blue gown with gold embellishments and carries a leather handbag in one hand. Around her neck hangs a diamond necklace worth hundreds of thousands of euros, perhaps even more. Of course, wealth means little between them, since they both already have more than enough. I'm just wondering where you get all your money, Tony muses aloud, breaking free of his reverie. Welcome, Miss Moira. Mr. Stark is expecting you in the sitting room, announces Jarvis's still slightly mechanical voice. Hearing his AI's greeting makes Tony smile, remembering how
Moira,
Jarvis had once persuaded him to pursue his passion for programming by building an artificial intelligence. Tony clearly recalls how thrilled Moira had been months ago when she learned he was developing an AI. She'd been so curious about what it would be like. From everything Tony had experienced, Moira was an incredibly self-confident, direct, and eccentric person, brilliant like him, but in her own distinctly odd way. When Tony saw her step into the sitting room, a memory surfaced of her excitedly telling him about having had sex. In hindsight, Tony can't quite recall how that conversation began, but it was certainly a very unusual experience. Why did you want to see me tonight? It sounded pretty urgent on the phone. And you know I'm a very busy woman, Moira says coolly. He meets her gaze, unconvinced, then shrugs and moves to the wine cabinet, retrieving a bottle and two glasses. First he pours her a glass, then his own. I do believe you're busy, he replies. But the question is, busy with what? Your lab, or other men, or women? Not that I'd mind either way. You just chase whatever gives you the most pleasure at the moment, whether it's research or your nighttime exploits. Moira looks slightly offended and snorts, turning her head away. I'm not that promiscuous, she retorts, amusement dancing in her eyes. You're just saying that because you haven't gotten enough women. Looks like you weren't such a great playboy after all. With a single gulp, she drains her wine glass and then leans forward, prompting Tony to finally reveal what's on his mind. You didn't bring me here for no reason, she teases. You're not planning to spend the night with me, are you? I wouldn't mind. You're handsome, smart, and maybe our children would inherit our intelligence. We'd have brilliant offspring. Tony just shakes his head gently. He knows she won't stop joking until he shares his true purpose in inviting her. I asked you here for several reasons, he begins. First, I wanted to see you. And no, I don't want our relationship to become intimate. I wouldn't mind, but I feel it could twist our friendship. I'd rather just talk with you. You're someone I can lean on, someone I can trust. I can tell you anything and you won't recoil in disgust. We're both odd in our own ways, and I want to thank you for helping me discover that my parents' deaths weren't an accident but murder. I appreciate your help and that you've always been there for me when I needed you. So I want to confide something in you, a secret, because you're one of the few people I can fully trust. Jarvis, please look away now, deactivate all cameras. He presses a button marked with a crossed-out eye icon. Well, now this is getting interesting. You're deactivating your sweet assistant to tell me something. I assume this icon cut the mics, too, Moira says with a raised eyebrow. You're absolutely right. I don't want anyone else to know. It could be dangerous. But I trust you, Tony replies, making a gesture and watching as the bottle refills their glasses on its own. To his surprise, Moira's reaction is perfectly calm. Congratulations, you're a metahuman, she says expressionlessly. So you discovered your superpower when you learned of your parents' death, or something like that. Am I right? Yes, Tony admits, visibly bewildered. My ability surfaced after my parents died. I don't know how, but I lost control, and only recently have I managed to rein it in. But why aren't you surprised? I thought this would blow your mind. Don't make such a fuss about it. It's pretty straightforward. I'm one of you, too. Like I said, you're a metahuman. That's a term I coined some time ago. It means new human, or an evolutionary step beyond standard humans. There are different types of us, superhumans, if you will, or metahumans. Some are born with abilities, others gain supernatural powers from an external source. Moira explains, nonchalant, as Tony watches her, both unsettled and intrigued.
For a few seconds, silence hangs between them until Tony finally breaks it. And you didn't think you could trust me enough to tell me something like this, Tony says. It wasn't that I didn't trust you. It was that I wasn't allowed to tell you. My parents are very strict and fiercely protective of me. Remember how I told you they trained me as a child in combat? That was true, but also an understatement, Moira replies. For a moment, silence returns as Tony calms himself. He understands Moira must have had her reasons for keeping this secret. Okay, I can accept that, but why didn't you tell me sooner? I get that your parents wouldn't want you revealing it to me, but there must be another reason, Tony Stark asks. Moira glances around the luxurious villa, then pads across the soft carpet in her slippers to the sofa and collapses into it, turning back toward Tony. The stars twinkle in the night sky outside, and despite the bright lamps, moonlight still spills in. You see, that's exactly why I like you. You're clever and think ahead. I didn't purposely hide everything from you, but you can imagine it wouldn't be pleasant if our powers were exposed. Your telekinesis and the ability I'm about to demonstrate. But back to the point. My parents are paranoid because, as you might guess, people don't react well when they learn there are humans with supernatural abilities. It only takes one greedy person to ruin hundreds of lives. You know full well that many wealthy people in this world would gladly give all their money if it meant living 10, 100, or 1,000 years longer. So you can imagine what happens when the existence of metahumans comes to light, Moira says, drawing a deep breath to steady herself. It's harder to explain than she thought, after all these years of saying nothing about what she is or can do. Hearing this, Tony runs a hand through his hair and falls silent, pondering her words. It doesn't take long for him to realize she's right. The suffering that would follow if metahumans were exposed would be needless, and it would undoubtedly upend all of humanity. Metahumans surely aren't so rare that it's just him and Moira. I assume there are more metahumans than just the two of us. Tony Stark ventures. Yes, metahumans exist worldwide, and those whose powers come from external sources have appeared with some frequency. The best example is Captain America. His abilities come from the super soldier serum, Moira explains, taking another sip of wine as the alcohol burns pleasantly in her throat. That can't be good. If they exist globally, it's only a matter of time before the secret gets out. And then it'll be absolute pandemonium on Earth, Tony Stark says, his voice trembling slightly. Yet to Tony's confusion, Moira remains perfectly calm, only a bit uncertain how to word her response. She studies him, shakes her head, and her blonde hair bounces with emotion. No, there won't be pandemonium, only if we handle it poorly and the three mutant underworld factions behave recklessly, she replies. What do you mean, mutants? Didn't you just say, metahumans? Tony Stark asks, and Moira simply nods. The term, mutant, is the old-fashioned name, laden with associations of mutation, cancer, and monstrosity, so I abandoned it. Back to the three factions, there's the right-wing Brotherhood of Mutants led by Magneto, the master of magnetism. He's a LEVEL4 mutant, powerful enough to destroy a city. Then there's Charles Xavier, the professor you know from the scientific journals. He's also a LEVEL4 mutant, a telepath who can read every human mind on Earth. He's a pacifist and doesn't use his power nearly enough to pose any real threat to me or the neutral faction. Professor Xavier can manipulate and alter thoughts. And then there's the neutral party, neither Xavier's naive pacifists nor the modern Nazis of the Brotherhood. The neutral faction believes you can't save meta-humans through pure pacifism or coexistence, nor can we allow ourselves to be seen as weak and get dissected in labs. We must blend force with peaceful compromise, use violence where necessary, Moira Shaw says with pride and conviction. Everything Moira Shaw says makes sense to Tony Stark. It's all logical, and there's no reason for her to deceive him. She's simply never told him the full truth. He understands why her parents forbade her from telling him, and he even understands their mistrust of him, since he's one of the wealthy who could be persuaded to build weapons against mutants. I can see why your parents didn't trust me. I suppose they feared my family or I would build weapons against mutants, or am I wrong in assuming that? Tony Stark asks. No, you're not wrong. I'm glad you understand exactly why I was forbidden to explain the existence of mutants, or, as we now prefer, metahumans. Mutant had become a slur, like a racist label for another kind of person. We're no more different than dark-skinned or light-skinned humans. That's just another mutation underpinning our powers. I'm not saying that everyone with powers is good or evil. I'm saying we're no more good or evil than anyone else. The world isn't black and white, and people will fear us if they discover what we are. Oh, and please refuse to join the Brotherhood of Mutants, because Magneto is an arrogant Level-4 mutant with an ego as big as the planet. He's a racist who thinks humans should be exterminated or enslaved. The man is insane and extremely dangerous. If you want to join a faction, align with the pacifists or the neutral group, Moira concludes. Tony Stark leans back, exhausted and overwhelmed by this torrent of information. Man, that's a lot to process, Tony admits, running a hand through his hair. But I think I finally understand why you've been so cautious. This world is a lot more complex than I imagined. Oh, what's with these levels or tiers you mentioned? Moira lifts the last sip of her wine to her lips and smiles. It's just a power ranking system. I'd guess you're a Level-3 metahuman. Tony leans forward, curiosity sparking in his eyes. Mind if I ask what your power is, and which level you are? He already senses this might be something she's not quite ready to reveal. Moira's expression softens, though a flicker of nervousness crosses her face. I'd love to tell you, but my parents will have my head if they learn I've shared all of this with you. But I'll tell you my power first, hopefully, you'll never have to see it in action. I don't like using my abilities. Abilities? Can someone have more than one at a time? Tony asks, genuinely puzzled. You can, she nods. But the sources of those abilities can differ. My primary mutation is energy manipulation. I have others, but I'm not telling you those, not because I don't trust you, but because I'm just extra cautious. She pauses, then smirks. Although, I do have a gift against telepaths and their little mind-reading tricks. With that, she pulls a sleek wristwatch from her dress and casually tosses it across the room toward Tony. The watch arcs through the air, almost lazily, defying expectation given the easy flick of her wrist. Before Tony can even ask what she means by energy manipulation, Moira gestures at the timepiece. That was a demonstration of my power, even if you didn't see it directly. To really showcase what I can do, we should go somewhere more private, or perhaps I could destroy a few pieces of furniture right here. I'm not the most delicate with control. She shrugs as if offering an after-dinner theater. Tony chuckles and shakes his head. We could step out onto the balcony, but then we might draw attention. People, satellites, I don't know if your ability emits any signature that could be detected. He watches as Moira rises without a word. Stepping toward the balcony, she glances back at him with a mischievous, almost seductive smile. Her hips sway as she reaches into a small cabinet beside the window and pulls out an ornate candle holder. You didn't need this anymore, did you? She asks, already bending the metal until a piece snaps free. Tony waves a hand dismissively. Nah, it's just an old keepsake of my father's. Meaningless to me, just scrap metal. Moira rolls the shard between her fingers, molding it as if it were clay rather than solid steel, until it forms a perfect sphere. She holds it between her thumb and forefinger, then flicks it forward with what appears to be normal, almost casual force. Tony's eyes widen as he hears a sharp crack, a tiny sonic boom, followed by the sphere grazing the tree trunk outside the balcony. What the hell was that? That shouldn't be physically possible. It violates every law of nature. How can you launch a metal sphere at that speed? Your fingers barely moved fast or hard enough to impart that velocity. He stands, incredulous and exhilarated. Yeah, I know, it sounds strange, but my power passively warts the rules of reality around me. I can't always control how it manifests, but whenever I use my ability, it bends the laws of nature a little. As you know, I can also show it to you with fire. Do you have any gasoline and a lighter? That's the easiest, and most fun, way to demonstrate it, Moira says, smiling kindly at him. Tony thinks for a few seconds, then shrugs. What's the worst that could happen? Determined to avoid eavesdroppers, they move into an empty room where Tony had no plans. They gather a pile of flammable materials, pour a liter of gasoline over it, and ignite the entire heap. Tony's heart pounds as Moira holds out her hand toward the roaring blaze. To his astonishment, the flames simply shrink. There's no visible transition. One moment they're burning, the next they just dwindle and vanish. The complexity of stripping away that fire energy looks eerily simple. Okay, I was half expecting something more spectacular than that. But whatever, what exactly did you do? The flames just disappeared the instant you pointed at them, Tony Stark says, turning to Moira. It's really not much, she replies. I basically removed the Brownian motion of the particles. Best way to describe it is I stopped their jiggling by taking the energy away. But I can't fully explain how my ability and the energy manipulation work. I can only say that once I understand something well enough, I can manipulate and control it. In this case, I understand Brownian motion, and I simply wanted the heat gone, so I absorbed it, and that's why it got cold, Moira Shaw says, meeting Tony's gaze. His eyes light up at the infinite possibilities her power seems to offer. But like a weight dropped onto him, he remembers again that many people would react very badly if the existence of meta-humans were revealed. So what's your plan for the future? You've shown me all these powers, we could do a lot with them, but what do you intend to do with your abilities? You said you don't like using them, so why? I know you want to advance technology and science, but what does that have to do with your powers? Is there something in your past that makes you hold back? Tony Stark pours out a torrent of questions, as if the murder of his parents had never happened. The fresh night air drifts through the open balcony door, and silence falls. Moira looks thoughtful. She hasn't really figured out her future yet. Well, I can't give you an exact roadmap, she finally says, but I'd say I want to become a superhero someday, maybe in a few years. For now, I'll keep living my life, doing research, and just having fun. And I'll limit contact with my parents. They're too strict, even if I know it's all for my own good, all that training and so on. In any case, I don't want to be like Magneto or Charles Xavier and ignore the lives of so many metahumans, letting them suffer just because I'm too afraid to take radical action. I want to be neither a pacifist nor a villain. Call me an anti-hero, someone who does what needs to be done. When the time is right, after I've become a superhero, I'll reveal myself more or less openly as a metahuman and fight for metahuman rights. That's all I've planned so far. And maybe, in the distant future, I'll take over the world, but that can wait a few hundred years, Moira says with a playful smile and tone that make it hard to tell if she's joking. Silence falls between them as Moira Shaw studies Tony Stark. The night stretches on, moonlight pouring through the living room windows in silvery beams. Moira notices Jarvis's AI remains offline and sees Tony lost in thought. Said metahumans, people with supernatural abilities, can possess multiple powers at once. How is that possible, and how does it manifest? Tony asks uncertainly, meeting Moira's gaze. She hesitates, wrestling internally with whether to share. Then something convinces her it's the right decision, an instinct tied to that third power she keeps even from her closest allies. It's like a sixth sense guiding her choices. It's incredibly complex and hard to describe. It's crucial, though, remember, it only takes one corrupt, wealthy person craving superpowers to ruin hundreds of weak metahumans. Yes, mutants is the wrong word. I mean metahumans. If we were weaker, you can imagine we'd end up in some lab, regardless of your status as Stark Industries heir. Sorry if this reminds you of your parents' loss, but you get my point. This situation is wildly complex, and I need you to stay as paranoid as I am. Paranoia is the only thing keeping us safe in this insane world. You already know so much about metahumans that it doesn't make a huge difference. In short, when two metahumans have a child, there's a 10% chance that the child inherits both parents' powers perfectly, or develops a mutated combination of the two. It may not sound extraordinary, but metahumans are rare, and it's not guaranteed their children even receive useful abilities. The X gene that grants these powers is extremely intricate. I'm not sure anyone can carry more than 2 X genes, because the genome would become too complex. But I'm not 100% certain this world really is that complicated. Also, at a certain point, a metahuman can transcend the X gene. It becomes unnecessary to use their mutation. Think of the X gene as a cheat code that unlocks energy manipulation our science can't comprehend. But if a metahuman trains intensely and bonds deeply with their power, they can reach a stage where the X gene isn't needed to trigger their ability. I still don't fully understand when or how this happens, only that it does. Some metahumans retain their powers even if the X gene is removed, Moira concludes. Outside, crickets chirp in the grass and a few late nesting birds twitter overhead, but between them, silence reigns. Moira, exhausted from talking, moves to the window. Tony takes a moment to absorb her revelation. What you're saying is that metahumans can indeed have multiple powers, but it's rare, and most such combinations are weak. Only a minority of children born to two metahumans receive useful abilities, Tony summarizes, gazing at her. The night sky seems even more enchanting now, storm clouds drifting in on the horizon, half hiding the moon and lending the scene a mysterious air. You've genuinely surprised me again, Tony, Moira says softly. We've known each other since university, and I never expected you to process this so calmly, especially after everything your parents, well, you know, I didn't think you'd accept that we must remain secret so quickly. There's not much to debate, Tony replies, smiling. You made persuasive arguments, and it's simply logical. I'd be an idiot to cling to the notion that we should go public or use our powers for some grand moral crusade. We know each other too well. I trust you wouldn't lie without good reason. I understand you had no real choice about this secret. I forgive you, and I get how complex this all is. There's no reason for me to panic or question the situation. I can't change the fact that I'm now a metahuman. And thank you, by the way, for showing me that my parents' deaths weren't an accident but murder. If it weren't for you, I'd never have known, Tony says, moving to the bar and using his telekinesis to pour both of them another glass of wine. All right, Moira says, accepting her glass midair. I need your help with something else. As the new head of Stark Industries, you and I can finally launch our research projects, without worrying about funding. I could have tapped my inheritance, but I'd rather not deal with my parents right now. They're complicated. I've got a few underestimated geniuses we could recruit. Geniuses like Dr. Otto Octavius from Oscorp. But to achieve my goals, I need more than one brilliant mind. I need many. Relying on my parents' resources would be unwise, though not impossible, just clumsy. Moira pauses, hearing Tony's soft laugh as he recalls her first party. She arches an eyebrow at him until he explains, I never imagined your drunken ramblings about underground superhuman societies would turn out to be real. I thought you were just creative, or buzzed, talking about your stories. That wasn't so great, Moira retorts with a grin. My parents made me train nonstop, jumping off the highest platform on the planet, for being drunk and spilling secrets that no one would take seriously. They put me through 2 days of nonstop drills, all because you dragged me to that party. Their laughter lightens the mood as they shift to more mundane topics. Tony's offer to fund and recruit talent for her company pleases Moira, and he wisely avoids prying into any past she's not ready to share. Yet his curiosity, which Moira unmistakably understands, remains simmering just beneath the surface. As they continued talking, it began suddenly. Moira sensed it before it happened. Her perception blurred, and she knew exactly what it meant. The flow of time around them stretched and compressed as if reality itself had become malleable. Moira, what's happening? You can't already be drunk, can I help you? Tony asked, concern in his voice. There's nothing truly dangerous happening, Moira replied, her voice calm despite the distortion around them. You could say I have a kind of sixth sense for certain events. I might faint for a moment. Please don't try to help me. First, I won't die if I pass out. Second, strange things may occur once I engage my abilities. Just keep your distance, don't touch me. I'm not sure what will happen, but if something does, just wait it out. Her body slumped to the floor as her awareness hovered halfway between time and timelessness. This is such a confusing experience, she murmured. My body feels present, yet my perception floats both inside and outside of time. It's disorienting, twisted and surreal. Peering into the future of what might be, Moira saw infinite timelines branching, collapsing, and reforming like a vast, ever-blooming tree of possibility. Some branches split off entirely into parallel universes, though an unseen force in the present held them at bay. I wonder how it's possible, she thought aloud. What in our reality prevents these alternate timelines or parallel worlds from interacting with ours? Something in the present, and it seems to defend the past as I perceive it. It doesn't rewrite events, but stiffens the flow of time, making it immutable. But why? What could it be? I know no artifact capable of such a feat. Could it be one of the Infinity Stones? If so, it wouldn't feel so absolute. There'd be room for change. Unless it's a higher, ordered power beyond our understanding. But if we're talking infinity, it's impossible to rank one form above another. I have no idea what it is. Perhaps, it could be me. My visions have revealed this world's secrets on occasion, and I've never sensed time travel, if it even exists. Focusing back on the present, Moira realized the distortion sprang not from many sources but from a single point, a singularity she recognized. It appeared as a dusty gray cloud illuminated by a pinpoint of bright white light, formless, colorless, yet undeniably an anomaly in space-time, especially time itself. She'd seen that same image before, not within the time stream, but in a photograph of herself. This is really strange, she whispered. I'm blocking the past and existing in a bizarre state between time and timelessness. How can I simultaneously be an active agent of the universe in the present and not truly be part of it? It's a headache. But why can I do this without interference? If I distort time and space this drastically, cosmic entities, the living tribunal, eternity, infinity, should intervene to restore order. Yet they don't, or I would have been erased long ago. There are only a few explanations. Either these cosmic beings don't exist, or they simply can't perceive or affect me, or they choose not to. Any of these would explain why I exist when I shouldn't, and why I remain untouched. Drifting in the timeless void, Moira spotted distant ruins, a nonsensical sight outside of time and space. Yet something within her awakened, and voices filled the emptiness like whispers from a long-forgotten age. Echoes of echoes. Then the vision hits with a jolt as everything around her turns bright white. In the next moment, Moira sees a man who looks fairly ordinary, aside from his conspicuously purple skin and the fact that he could use better makeup. He sits across from a woman Moira instantly recognizes as Jessica Jones, even though she's never actually met her. Moira barely has time to register the scene before the setting shifts rapidly, and memories, images, and future events flood her vision. A glimpse of past and future all at once, it's new even for her. The man, known as Kilgrave or the Purple Man, is unmistakably evil. In the torrent of recollections, Moira sees him using his mind control power to satisfy his every desire, including the most depraved, committing atrocities that would make her, if she were in her normal form, retch uncontrollably. She struggles to block out those horrific images, knowing they'll haunt her for days. Kilgrave isn't even worthy of being called human, she thinks, shaking with revulsion. That creature is a monster in human shape. How can he do such cruel things? Just thinking about it makes my stomach twist. I want to vomit, but I can't. I'll have nightmares every time I see him. I can't accept that someone like him shares this world with me. Why would anyone be blessed, or cursed, with those powers only to become so damn evil? Sure, He had a terrible childhood and abusive parents, but didn't anyone notice how brutal he was? Maybe he was clever enough to erase his tracks, but mark my words, if I ever find him, I'll kill him. But the vision isn't over. Abruptly, it shifts to S.H.I.E.L.D. and then to the nation of Wakanda. Despite her lingering disgust at Kilgrave, Moira's heart swells with admiration for Wakanda's incredible technology, and she instantly knows who her next target of interest will be. I'm not a thief, she thinks with a mischievous grin. I'm not stealing from Wakanda or any other super villains who build amazing gear. I'm just repurposing their tech for good. The bad guys always have the coolest toys. That's borrowing, not stealing. And if they don't secure their inventions well, I can hardly be blamed for grabbing them for free. To her surprise, a third vision ignites behind the previous two, showing only an octopus-like symbol in the name Hydra, an obviously malevolent organization conducting inhuman experiments. Moira doesn't know why her power shows her these three visions in succession, but she senses their importance. Destroy the Hydra organization, a disembodied voice commands from the void, and Moira's spectral form curls into a grin. Oh, you're back, she replies aloud to the voice. I was wondering if you'd left for good. Why do I bother helping you every time? It's exhausting, having the same conversations again and again. No, I won't tell you what's going to happen. No, I won't tell you who, or what, I am. Stop asking me questions. Stop thinking you can command me, the voice snaps, clearly irritated by the endless waterfall of thoughts flooding Moira's mind. You started this conversation, Moira shoots back evenly, surprisingly unflustered despite her usual paranoia toward telepaths. How am I supposed to know who you are? And if you don't want me to reply, then stop listening and stop reading my thoughts. That's your problem, assuming you can even read minds with whatever you are. Can you tell me if there are gods out there who could erase me with a single thought or not? Moira asks, her voice edged with fear, addressing the only voice she instinctively trusts. That question had to come up eventually, replies the voice, sounding both male and female at once. Yet there's more strangeness to its tone, it seems simultaneously young and old, and there's that uncanny feeling that this voice shouldn't even exist. All right, I'll explain as best I can. You cannot be perceived by the beings you fear, and those who can see you simply aren't interested enough to act. You could destroy the world, and no one would intervene, the voice says casually. What about those strange timelines that almost touch my present but get diverted, what are they? Moira asks the voice in her head. That's simple, that's you. You should feel it, parallel timelines can't interact with your current one. You must sense that your past is immutable and your future undetermined. Those rules don't originate from you, but you act as their catalyst. You stop potential timelines, other universes, or time paradoxes from occurring. In theory, someone else might time travel into your present, but if it involves time travel, you block it. It's hard to explain, but even interdimensional travel is far more difficult because of you. There was a term, something to do with the TVA or the ruins outside your timeline. They called people like you a nexus being. You are the focal point of your world, an anomaly, a singularity, intimately tied to your own time. Yes, that's the gist, the voice explains. What's a nexus being? Moira asks. It's a person or living entity who is the focal point of their world. Normally, it means they can't die or must persist indefinitely because they're linked to the universe's existence. You're different. You're more like a universe within a universe, if that makes sense. No, more accurately, you're separate from your universe yet also its center. You can be killed, you can die in whatever sense, dying, means to you. Your consciousness can cease, but your existence itself can't be entirely erased. Thus others can slay you, yet your existence doesn't end like other mortals. Your soul does not vanish, your consciousness simply never returns. You won't live and die as others do, no resurrection, no reincarnation. If you die, you're done. And if your life continues, you could exist until the end of all things. Wait, so I'm a god or something, and you're saying I can't truly die unless I do. That's utterly contradictory, and yet I guess I won't get a straight answer from you. I'll figure it out sooner or later. I've still got a few centuries ahead of me. As far as I understand, I can die if I choose. Man, this is confusing. Can I finally wake up? I want to keep talking to Tony Stark, Moira says to the voice in her head. Silence falls between them. The voice is still, yet somehow feels closer, as if it's gently embracing her spirit in its ethereal form outside of time.
And thank you for your attention. That's it for today. If you want to see the next part of the story, leave a like and an abo da, and don't forget to recommend my YouTube channel to your friends. This is a revised version of my story. I know I have done it already. I already tried once to revise the story to improve on it, but now that should be the final version. I know that can be a little bit annoying, but that is the process of writing a story. I hope you still liked it, and if you want to see the next part, you can click here on the right side on the screen. There you can see the playlist and the newest parts of the story, and on the left side of the screen you see also the newest video I uploaded. Until next time, take care and goodbye.